Hello everyone and welcome to the first iteration of the SAS Railfan Trainz route building podcast. Before I even get into what this Trainz route is or what you're seeing on screen right now, I just want to talk about how this is just going to be a podcast of me talking over Trainz route building content, and it's just going to be an opportunity for us to chill things out a little and talk about whatever's going on, whatever I want to talk about, and anything related to the actual route that I'm building. So basically, the route that you're seeing me give you a tour of right now is basically a shortened version of the northern Connecticut, Massachusetts area. So right now we're flying through Springfield, and it goes from Hartford all the way up to East Deerfield Yard, with sections going east and west at Springfield, east out of Hartford, and then in East Deerfield it goes out towards Boston, which I'm going to cut off right about there. And then it'll go west of East Deerfield Yard, which is a section of track that I haven't actually gotten around to building yet, because on the day that I was actually building all of the track plan, I just kind of got bored because there's only so many miles of track that I can lay before I get insanely bored just laying track after track after track, because eventually I just need something to do, something to actually like to scenic something. And so the first project we'll be working on is here in Windsor, Connecticut. In the opening kind of cinematics, you saw that it was already built, but that's because I took the cinematics that you saw at the beginning of the video after I'd already finished the entirety of Windsor, and I wasn't about to delete all of Windsor just to take the cinematics and build it again. I'm not that crazy, and I've also had entire routes disappear on me because of saving issues and session issues. Literally, I had a route where I was trying to build, I believe it is, I don't know if this was a made-up name, but you might be able to Google it, the East Troy Electric Railroad. It's a museum out in, I believe, Wisconsin or Ohio, and at the time I was really inspired to make like interurban / trolley lines, and so I built the entire route, or not the entire route, but I gotten it started. I got a pretty good base going, and a lot of it had already been built. I had gotten like just about half a mile of track that was all very highly detailed, and one day I opened the route and it's basically all flat land. Like only the textures were left, and I was so sad because I had lost the entirety of the route and several hours of work. So going back to the route that we're working on right now, this is basically just probably too big of a project, to be honest with you, of just me wanting to build, the railroads in my area and the railroads that I have, childhood memories and current memories from all the rails that I frequent from where I live. And so will I probably lose motivation on this project because it's way too big? Probably. I've never been good with making super big ambitious routes because eventually I just end up losing motivation, ADHD takes over, and I want to go do other stuff. It is a very real possibility that this may be the only episode in this series. This may be one of 3. This episode or this series could go on for a really long time. I really don't know what I'm going to do with it because, for one, I enjoyed making this episode, except the stuff in post did kind of become a little bit of a slog with doing a half hour of voiceover, because as of right now I still have almost entirely a half hour of footage to talk over, and I just gotta keep yapping for a half hour straight, which in future episodes they won't actually be this long. I was recording for several hours and I made the half of Windsor, and I was like, oh, we'll see how long this takes in post. I didn't actually know kind of how it would time out, and so I was just kind of doing it as like a test episode. So I built half of Windsor, and then by the time I got into editing, I realized that I had way too much footage. I believe the final tally of footage that I had, or like the amount of time that the footage took up, was around like 3 hours, I believe. And then I had to put all of my building content up into the 5 times speed just so it could like fit within a reasonable time frame. And then I also had to keep cutting around the time-lapse footage, because there were points while I was building where I would either like go check Google Maps to make sure I was putting something in right, or know what to put somewhere, like where buildings were and stuff. And so all that kind of stuff took time, and it would, from the time lapse, the OBS is only looking at my Trainz capture, and so my Trainz Z capture, so all it saw was that. So if I was off on another tab, it wouldn't actually show anything. So I had to cut all that out, which is why in some places you'll see me cut to different sections of the time lapse, and there will just be cuts within it, which is something that I'll get better at. And another thing that I got to work on is when I'm moving around in Trainz, when you right click and to like move the compass to move your camera, what I usually do, I end up like spamming a lot for kind of no reason. I know some people might like hold it or like just kind of click exactly where they want to go, but as for me, I like spam it really fast, and so on the time lapse that can come off as like really jittery and like hard to watch, which is obviously something that I got to work on, and is something that I'll try and make look better for future episodes. I have already shared some screenshots of the Windsor portion of this route once I was done with it in my Discord and a couple other Discords. And so I've heard some people ask me, am I going to make this route public? And basically the answer to that is probably not. I usually keep all the routes that I make to myself because it's my work and whatever. And I'm not trying to be all gatekeepy. It's just that, one, I kind of don't know how to make something public or put on the download station. If I put it on the download station, I could advertise it to you guys, but then again, it's a download station map, and also I have a lot of third-party assets that I really don't feel like putting into one big list of like missing dependencies that people have to go download if they want to get the actual route to work. That's just effort that I don't really want to put into this route. That's not a part of the Trainz building process that I really enjoy. So if you want to kind of interact with the route, join the Discord. The link should be in the description if I remember to do that. God, I hope I remember to do that. And I can probably do like voice chats where I like stream it. We do like op sessions. That's something that may or may not come in the future. We'll see what happens, honestly. The whole future of this route is pretty up in the air, probably more up in the air than you guys might want or might think that it would be. And I know I keep talking about like, oh, the route, this might be the only episode and I'm not going to make it public, but that's just because, well, one, I want to set expectations low so that they can be, like fulfilled higher in the future. But also, I want to give myself like an escape route in case I lose motivation quickly on this project or I kind of stop wanting to build on it. Which, by the way, in the time lapse you just saw, I cut around me making that whole embankment where the cut down where the road goes under the train bridge. That was one of the things I cut out. But anyway, I don't want to like promise like, oh, this is going to be a crazy big series to you guys. We're going to build all of New England and we're gonna build from Hartford to East Deerfield, and then I let you guys down by losing motivation and not wanting to build on the route. So that's why I'm kind of setting a low bar for myself, just so I can not disappoint you guys, which is something that I never want to do. The idea / the motivation for this route kind of stemmed from me very recently getting back into Trainz Z. So I used to, like a couple years ago, I was very into Trainz Z. I made a lot of routes. I've built so much stuff. I've put so many hours into the game. I think on Steam at one point I had like 5,000, 6,000 hours, which is a lot more now. I remember checking that pretty early on. So yeah, case in point, I have a lot of hours in this game, and I have built a lot. But kind of going into college, I think all of freshman year, I kind of fell out of the game, mainly because, one, I had nothing that could run the game. My laptop that I had here on campus was not good. It wasn't able to run Trainz Z, I mean, and so I just kind of stopped playing the game. And since I stopped playing the game for such a long time, I kind of forgot what it felt like to play the game. I kind of lost that touch with the game. And so even after I came back for summer break after freshman year, I kind of didn't really touch the game that much. I'd find other things. At the time I was grinding Geometry Dash because 2.2 had just come out, and I was kind of enjoying other things, and I didn't really play Trainz Z. So while that was going on over the summer, the separate thing that was happening along the storyline was during freshman year, my laptop that I had was really not doing good. Like, it wasn't even able to run like school programs that I needed for school. And so over the summer, my awesome family bought me an absolute beast of a computer, which I'm very thankful for. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Mom. Love you guys. And so this absolute beast can run a lot. It's run like Vinci almost perfectly, whereas my laptop was basically a slideshow when I ran Vinci. I couldn't even play the video playback, which just goes to show like how inadequate it was at running kind of bigger stuff. And so since it was actually hindering my ability to do schoolwork, which is was my first priority, we got this new computer that I can have at the house I'm living at this year on campus. And so now that I have software, or actually hardware, that can run Trainz in a meaningful way, while I came back just at the beginning here of sophomore year, I was talking to people within my Discord, and they were telling me about several places where I could get locomotives that all were part of kind of the New England area, like, for example, Pan Am locomotives, Maine Central locomotives, and there are a lot of like P&W locomotives, RJ Corman locomotives, all that kind of stuff. Like, really motivated me to come back to Trainz. And so I downloaded Trainz on my new computer, kind of got everything fired up, reunited myself with my new routes, because I made the smart decision to port the build of my Trainz project, like my whole build, onto my hard drive, so I can have my train build wherever I bring my hard drive. I can just plug it in and copy the files over, so everything that I've ever built in Trainz is contained within that build. So all I have to do is kind of import the build into the Trainz files on the new computer, and then I have everything right there ready to go. And so not only was the influx of new locomotives that were all stuff that I've been looking for a really long time, a huge kick to the motivation glands, but also seeing all my old routes and all the work I'd put in previously kind of brought me back into the game and really motivated me. And so I thought real hard about kind of what I could do on my channel about Trainz, and this was kind of the best idea that I came up with, where I've always wanted to build a route that's kind of all my home areas, and like the places that I frequently railfan around my home. And I've also wanted to do something that kind of resembles a podcast on my channel, so I thought, why not combine the two and make exactly what you're watching right now. And while I was actually in the route editor and building the new route, I definitely had a lot of teething trouble getting back into the game, because there were definitely moments where I kind of had to build back that muscle memory of how I used to build stuff, where, for example, if I was holding a spline and then trying to move the camera with right click and then also wanted to zoom out, like I forgot the right way to hold my hand and how I did it before. And so I just kind of had to find all my old habits, and I'm definitely going to have some kind of like brain farts when it comes to building stuff in Trainz again, and trying to remember all the old tips and tricks that I used to use. For example, like you saw me using a bush to cover the two medians coming together, which actually later in the time lapse I find a better way of connecting corners of that median asset. But for now, they're just going to be covered up by that bush. Which actually I think I deleted that corner. Yeah, if you look at the parking lot over there, I actually deleted it. But later I found out that you can just make a pretty tight curve and it doesn't actually look half bad. In a second here, you're going to see me placing down a bus stop asset. And so that asset that you're seeing right there was a huge pain in the butt to find an asset similar to it that I actually liked, because in the real life Windsor station, there are these little like kind of bus stop looking things that are kind of a cover over some benches that you can sit on the small platform there. And so it took me a really long time to find an asset that was actually close enough to that actually looked half decent. And so that asset that's currently on the platform there is actually from the download station. I had to download it in between building sessions, and that's kind of a perfect story of how I'm still trying to get back in the swing of building in Trainz, because I kind of forgot where all the good assets were. And yeah, I have my pick lists, but they don't show everything. I remember building on one of my biggest routes that I've ever built, which I'll actually get to in a second. I knew of so many extra assets that weren't even on my pick lists, and I could search for them immediately. And I had built up a bunch of habits that I really need to build back and kind of find the assets that I used to know about and whatever. And so I just mentioned that I have a huge route, and I've been wanting to show this off in some meaningful way on my channel for a really long time. So the biggest route I've ever built in Trainz is a 1-to-1 recreation of the RJ Corman Carolina lines, which is located in South Carolina, that runs from I believe Chadbourne. Let me fact check that actually. Yeah, so it runs south from Chadbourne and goes out west towards Mullins where it interchanges with CSX. And so the part that of the route that I've modeled is the Red Hill to Allen section of RJ Corman Carolina lines. That the route is just it's been a weird thing for me where it's kind of just been a motivation engine for me, and I really don't know why. I've never lost motivation to build the route or anything, and it was kind of a thing where I would stop building on that route because I wanted to go do something else, and then eventually lose motivation on that other project, and I would come back to the RJ Corman line and I would just again have complete motivation on it. And I really don't know why I've never lost motivation on it, but it's been really nice having a route that I can just keep building, keep expanding, keep detailing, and it's really come out good. There's 18 fully detailed miles of track in a perfect prototypical layout, and it's actually kind of I've modeled a lot in the area. I have several industrial areas, a lot of like forest and suburban areas, and even a whole power plant. And so that route I'm definitely going to find a way to showcase out on this channel at some point, because it's too good to not show. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy getting a tour of the whole route. Although I got to be honest, I've given tours of the route on voice chats before, and it is not a short route. It takes like a good 20-30 minutes to do a full tour if I'm showing you every single detail, every little Easter egg that I've put into the route, because it is literally taken, probably, if I added up the total amount of time that I spent on the route, it's probably taken like 4 months of total time just within that route. It is truly a spectacle, because and I don't want to be too far up my own, but it is probably the best thing I'll ever create in Trainz, and I'm sure I might create something better. Who knows, maybe the route that we're building right now might come out better, but I'm just really proud of how that route has turned out, and I definitely want to give a tour of it to you guys someday. So you guys are probably wondering why there hasn't been a lot of railfanning content lately on my channel, because I've gone from the plane spotting video, which was the last actual, railfanning, aka plane spotting video on my channel. Then it went edit, Q&A video, Q&A video, Q&A video, and now a Trainz video. And the answer to the reason why there hasn't been much railfanning content is just because I kind of lost motivation on making like main railfanning videos on the channel for a little bit, and I wanted to do other stuff. There were multiple ideas that I found more interesting than making a normal railfanning video, because the main videos on my channel, they take a lot of effort to create, and after making so many of them, I kind of want to take a little bit of a break. And also, since I've made that plane spotting video, I haven't gone on many trips that are actually worthy of making a video about. For a trip that I go on to be worthy of a video being created of it, there really has to be a lot of opportunities for me to make the video interesting. So if I go out to, say, some crossing and I'm seeing a good amount of trains, I can even get some good catches, but I'm just sitting there at a crossing the whole day taking shots of whatever train passes, that would just be a really boring video, and I'd really have to rely on edited in jokes in post to make the video actually watchable for people, watching my channel who want like the quicker, fast-paced railfanning content, because there's nothing interesting happening in real life, so I have to kind of edit in stuff to make the video more engaging. And so that's kind of why I haven't made, railfanning content in a while, because I just haven't had a trip recently that actually had enough interesting stuff happen for it to warrant a main video. But as of right now, I do have 2 trips that I definitely would want to make a video about. But conflicting with that, I certainly have more ideas for more edits and stuff that I could create. For example, the recent passing, or not passing, it's not a live, but the last -9 thoroughbred going into the Juniata shops, which is it is a mile away from me. I could go see it, but I have some ideas of stuff that I could do with that, and some other ideas relating to edits or other kinds of videos on my channels. But that's all to say that Railfan and content will be back on the channel, and I'm excited for how those videos come out because there are definitely some very interesting stories that came out of these couple trips that I've been on recently. Another reason for me losing motivation kind of on the big videos was I was really struggling with, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but I was struggling with some mental issues following some kind of stuff that was happening in real life that was really affecting my mental health. And you don't have to worry about me. I'm doing a lot better now. I definitely have, people surrounding me that are a lot better, but for a little while it was pretty tough. And I'll keep all the details out to keep privacy of the people involved and myself, and just out of respect. But it was hard for a little while for myself, and so I was getting over that hurdle before I went back to the channel, because if I had made a video of something while I was depressed, it would not have come out very well, and I knew that, which is why I didn't actually put anything up on the channel during that time period. But you guys definitely don't have to worry about me. That time period is over, and I'm definitely doing a lot better. Although it's not fully gone, and it never will be. But we're figuring it out. And at this point, I can say the channel is definitely going to be coming back. Not like crazy big return SAS Railfan new video every week, but I still got to do school. I still got that's still the priority. But I definitely want you guys to know that there are new videos on the way, and definitely a lot of ideas contained up in my noggin. So I mentioned the last Thoroughbred -9 going into storage earlier, and I want to go into a little more detail of that because, yeah, it is, kind of sad for some people, but also kind of a somber tone where kind of one of the last engines of a former era going into storage. But I don't get why people get so, either nostalgic or like animalistic or angry or in awe about like super tiny details about trains. For example, like the definition of a thoroughbred is the Norfolk Southern logo without the horse head on it. And so just on face value, that doesn't actually seem, that's not anything special. It's not enough to warrant it being on like the Heritage Units app or anything. But people like think it's like some crazy catch, and the last thoroughbred is going to storage, where it's just a part of a logo that's missing. It's an old style of the Norfolk Southern logo, and yeah, the last one's gone, but it's such a minute detail that I've never really understood people getting like all excited over like the super tiny details. Like, obviously, like something I never want to do is make fun of someone else's interest. Obviously, I will always say enjoy what you enjoy, and if that goes against what I'm saying, then don't listen to me. I'm just some guy on the internet. But I really don't get why people like find like the most minute details and gravitate to what's rare, because that's really the root of the cause of people liking like tiny minute details. Like, people just want to find and catch stuff that's rare, even like no matter what kind of detail the actual rare thing is. Like, you'll see people saying, oh, there's low marker lights, or the missing headlight, or the only Norfolk Southern black unibrow, or I mean, kind of honestly at this point I'm out of ideas because I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. I like minute details. I find like a not reasonable merit to call an engine rare. Like, obviously I am totally victim to doing stuff like this. For example, I find it a good catch when I catch like a white face and Norfolk Southern engine or stuff like that. But I think I don't really like the very prevalent trend in the Railfan community where people just like what's rare and don't like what's common. And like, I mentioned this in my Q&A video, but if you look for that kind of pattern within the Railfan community, you'll see it popping up pretty much everywhere. Like, there's like a bunch of examples. People really like C6Ms, or that's not right. People despise C6Ms because they're so common and they're everywhere, and like almost every NS train has a C6M on it somewhere. But people love the Norfolk Southern ACCs or the ACEs or stuff like that, and people almost universally hate GEVOs because they were for a time they were very common, and any other kind of like ACEs or something that people will gravitate towards as like a good catch and stuff they want to catch, and like a very common favorite locomotive manufacturer is EMD, because EMD engines are much more rare than, not much more, but you see more GE locomotives than you see EMD. So a lot of more people will foam over EMD locomotives. Oh, there's an ace that's leading the train today, which is something like I don't understand why people like. Again, enjoy what you enjoy. Like, I'm not ever going to make fun of yuck someone else's yum, but I don't get why people will see like a Norfolk Southern intermodal with 2 C6Ms on it and that's it, and think it's like, oh, it's a bad catch, or oh, I'm not even gonna record it because it's just common stuff. Oh, I've seen it before. Because at the end of the day, you're seeing a train. That's the whole point you went trackside. Like, this is something that I'll always is an opinion that I'll always stick to, because I think it's important to, at least in my opinion, stick to the mantra of no matter what you see when you go rail fanning, as long as you see a train, you go home happy. I really don't get when people like see only the common stuff on a day rail fanning and they think it's a bad day rail fanning. They didn't see anything good, because at the end of the day, like, you're in the rail fanning hobby to see trains, and if you went and saw a train, then isn't that your task completed? Like, you fulfilled your goal. And so that aspect is why I don't understand why people get like so happy or sad about like very tiny minuscule details about engines like that, because to me any train's a good train. Obviously there are things that can make a train better in my opinion, for example like rare power or kind of rarer stuff on the train. Obviously I'm not saying that I'm above liking rare stuff. You know, any that's the whole reason anyone's in the hobby. You're trying to catch cool stuff and try and find like rare trains that are going by. But there are other ways to enjoy the rail fanning hobby. Like for me, I really enjoy videography and getting different shots. There are so many different ways to enjoy rail fanning, whether it's model trains or videography or making train videos or journalism or whatever. You know, it depends on what you want, but that is going to do it for this episode of the SAS Railfan Route Building Podcast, which again, I might change the name. It is a very long name to say, or I might shorten it to something, but that is pretty much the entirety of, or at least half of Windsor done. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I don't know if there will be other parts. I'll try and make other stuff for this series, but you know, we'll see where it goes. And we'll see how big this project eventually gets. So that is a half an hour of me talking completed, which I'm very happy about. And I will see you in the next episode of the podcast. Enjoy the cinematics, and thank you for watching.